So I wanted to make this video about something really big in my life, something that is a move of God that I want to talk about. So I'm not going to, take too long. Like I said, I already took enough time. But, I was in prayer around October of last year of 2023, and I was really just kind of like talking to God. I don't remember what I was talking about. I feel like at the time it was pretty random. It wasn't anything like, God, I'm so lost. I need you to help me. I'm trying to figure something out. It was really just kind of like one of those. I don't know if you have like conversations where you're just like thinking or talking with God about stuff. It's literally just like almost like a random conversation. And I just remember he was like, "You're moving to Dallas," and I was like, "What?" Like, I was shocked. I was perplexed. I just didn't understand. And I just like took a moment, and then I was thinking about it, and it was like my spirit like registered that it was like truth, because I thought like, man, am I tripping? Like, I don't really know. It just, because of like I said, the conversation I was having with God, I almost felt like it came out of like left field. And so I just took a moment to like process, and it was like in my spirit I knew it was true, and I just started crying, and I started weeping because, you know um, being in Atlanta. So I've been in Atlanta for since 2006. So very long time, and it just, I don't know. I was just like, I didn't, that just wasn't in my plans. That wasn't what I thought that my life was going to be. Like, I just didn't see myself moving. That wasn't something that I necessarily was desiring. So I just was, it was like at that moment, I started to feel myself like disconnecting. Like, as I accepted it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is really happening. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna text my friend because maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm just like, having a weird moment. And so I text my friend thinking maybe she would kind of be like, well, girl, I don't know. Like, I don't think you should do that, or you should pray or whatever. But she didn't say any of that. She was like super encouraging. It was almost like, like sometimes, like, if like, say if you have a like little crush or something, and then you like tell your friend like, oh, I got a crush on so and so, but it's like they already knew. But you was like trying to act like you didn't have a crush, but it's like they already knew. It's like she just are. I don't know if God had already told her, but I'm gonna have to ask her. But she just, yeah, she wasn't alarmed at all by what I said. And so we just kind of was going back and forth. She was asking me details of when it was, and I was like, well, he hasn't given me an exact date yet, but I know that it's soon. It'll be within the next 6 months. And I'm just gonna pretty much go into prayer now. So that was my next step. Just, okay, God, if you're gonna take me to this other place, and I'm going to be between these two cities, that means that I'm going to be maintaining two different households. God, what does that look like? You got to talk to me. You got to tell me, because you're asking me to do something that's much bigger than the sphere of like what I already have going on, what I planned, what I intended. And I was very much in a place where, I had rededicated my life to Christ. So I was, saying more and more yeses, more and more surrender. Um, but even when it came to like my where I was living, and my plans for my business, my plans for my career, and all of that type of stuff, I had what I wanted to do. But as I started to get even more intimate and ask God more of these questions, because I'm like, what I don't want to do is go to a city, with a dollar and a dream, and not seek God about what He wants me to do, because I didn't have any plans for Dallas, and I didn't have any intentions of being in Dallas. So over the months, he started giving me downloads. He started telling me different stuff that I needed to do to prepare, things that I needed to be doing for Dallas, things that I needed to be doing in Atlanta, things I needed to be doing for my business. So we just went together. Me and the Holy Spirit just went through together, and He just guided me through a bunch of different stuff in all of those areas. And I just began to prepare. I went into a lot of prayer, even at church. So I didn't tell anyone else with the exception of my mom. I told her, and only because like she mentioned like a dream or something. I think she said like she had a dream that I was like moving to Dallas, and then she corrected her. No, she said she had a dream that she was with me in Dallas, and then she corrected herself and she said Atlanta. And so I kind of paused because I was like, God, did you tell her? Like, is she trying to like see if I'm gonna tell her? So I like paused for a second, and then I was like, okay, in my heart, and then like talking to the Holy Spirit in my mind, I'm like, okay, can I tell her? Like, do you give me like the green light to tell her? Because at this point, the only person I've told is my friend over these months. And he was like, go ahead. So I told her. I didn't tell her the date. At that time, I didn't have the date either. But I just knew that it was going to be soon. That's all I knew. I knew it was going to be within 6 months. And I was just waiting for that next step and that confirmation of, okay, this is when you need to go. So fast forward, I would go up for prayer at church, and I wouldn't even ask them. I didn't want to be like, hey, I have this move, can you pray for me and tell me, what you think I should do. And so when I would go up for prayer, no, and that one thing I'll say is nobody ever was like, yeah, you should go or you shouldn't go. But the things that were in prayer between me and God, it was like I was getting confirmation. They didn't realize that they were giving me confirmation. And maybe they did see it, but God wouldn't allow them to release it. I don't know. I genuinely feel like within my journey of me like coming here, I feel like specifically like certain stuff like God would not like it just felt like nobody would like go like tell me that directly. Like they would tell me like certain like I would get like the same topic from like different people that didn't like know me over and over, where God was speaking like stuff, family and different things about like my identity and stuff, but never about me moving. And I feel like that was intentional because I believe that God really wanted me to be like, one, I want you to know that you're hearing me, and I want you to trust me. I want you to trust that you hear me and that you hear me correctly. But at the same time, even when they would pray for me, it would be like little stuff that was a part of that writing that we would do together that would be confirmed in that. And I'd be like, okay, you gave me like a little baby confirmation, but none of the stuff that was like, like some people get like a prophecy, or they'll get a prayer or word, and then somebody be like, yeah, I just see you moving, or I see you doing X, Y, and Z. It was kind of like not explicit, if that makes sense. So fast forward, God finally gives me a date, and so I know that I'm leaving all my furniture and all the stuff in my home, and I'm just going to, take my clothes, and everything, and just drive down. So I get to Texas immediately. I'm hit with expenses. One of the first things that happened was my phone fell out my MacBook, $600 repair. The second thing that happened was like 2 days after I got there, my car was leaking. What's antifreeze everywhere? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's kind of like, it kind of shook me a little bit, because I'm like, okay, God, you're moving me into this place. So I'm kind of like a little bit panicky when that's happening, because like I said, I had really just came with like everything that could fit in my car. Pretty much like clothing. I didn't bring like furniture and everything because I still go between both cities. So I'm like, well, you know, I know that I'm going to have to like furnish wherever I'm going, and on top of just like, all of the expenses that come with moving, you know what I'm saying? Security deposits, paying rent. So yeah, that kind of like, it kind of like ruffled me a little bit because I was, I'm like, okay, God, did I hear you right? I know I heard you. I know I heard you. But I get here and, this is happening. Like, it was like the phone cracking my screen. That was like literally a $600 repair. That happened less than 48 hours. Not even 48. It was, we got there like at night, like maybe like 1 or 2 in the morning, and by like 9 in the morning my screen was cracked, and was 1 month out of warranty for my computer. And then like a couple days later, I just go out to my car and I'm like, why is my car like um leaking this fluid? Like, what's going on? And so I just was like freaking out a bit. um and God is just like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be fine, like I'm gonna make a way, which he did. All of that stuff got, it got fixed, it got corrected. And so like during this time, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a place. I've been to Dallas a few times, but I wasn't really in Dallas Metro. I knew that because of that, I knew that I didn't want to like stay too far, because I'm like, I know it's kind of difficult. So I knew like coming here, I was like, I'm not really that sure. I mean, I've been here a few times, but I don't really know the area. So I knew that I was going to be like going back and forth to Dallas from my parents' home here in Texas. They don't live in Dallas. So I was, coming back and forth to Dallas, exploring different neighborhoods. I was trying to kind of understand, like, because it's one thing, like when you live in a city for a long time, like being in Atlanta, it's like I know what places are like good areas and what are not good areas, what places are high traffic, what places are worth the money, high crime, etc. But it's like I don't know that from being here, you know what I'm saying, or from visiting, because I wasn't actually in Dallas. Like I was in the outskirts of Dallas, and I didn't know, like, okay, do I find somewhere in the outskirts? How is that? I don't know the roads. And then also too, if you know anything about the roads here in Dallas, they are super super confusing. They're really confusing. I feel like people drive really like aggressively out here. And then their road system is totally different than it is in Atlanta. Like for one, Atlanta doesn't have like feeder roads. Y'all might call them access roads. I call them feeder roads. They have that here, and even the roads are different from like Houston. So for me, I just was like, okay, I knew I needed to come here a little bit to kind of figure out how to navigate and get around um, without like a whole lot of trouble. So did that, found a place, and oh, let me rewind. So as I'm like going back and forth between my parents' home and here trying to find a place, I'm, going through a ton of like spiritual warfare where I'm just like, I'm fasting at this time. I'm also like rapidly growing in my relationship with God. So it's like, between all of that and a lot of the things that I was going into prayer about were of course this move, but just also for my own relationship with God. So I'm just like, God, this is so much, right? And so now fast forward, I'm here, I'm getting settled in, and it's just really starting to like, as the days pass, as a month pass, like I'm starting to realize, I'm like, God, not only am I going through this like spiritual battle, for my own personal thing, I feel like I'm also going through spiritual warfare because of whatever, it's like I know a piece of the puzzle of what you have here, but it's like one of those things where like I started to realize like I said yes, and I don't realize the fullness and the magnitude of what I said yes to. Like, being here is something that I feel like has really like stripped me as a person, like to be like in my journey and growth with Christ. Is like, I had stopped drinking, I had stopped going out, and just doing a lot of things. So, and even with like the drinking part, it was like, and also growing closer in my relationship, I started to have all of these big emotions surface, and I didn't have anything really that I was used to kind of take the edge off, or like chill, or like, I'm kind of feeling anxious, let me have a glass of wine, or I just want to relax a bit. It was like I had to really give these problems or whatever I'm feeling to God, because I don't have any like middleman to kind of cut the edge. And so it's like being here is like having to deal with things that I didn't expect to deal with growing. I thought I was going to come here and it's like, boom, I'm going to, start doing these hobbies, and I'll make friends and it won't take long, and, I'll be able to hang out, and I'll kind of get to, I'll have this new life. It won't be exactly like my life in Atlanta, because I was drawing away from a lot of the stuff that I was doing in Atlanta, which, was going out, drinking, hanging out. I just wasn't in that space anymore. But I thought that when I was coming here, I had in my mind, it's like, yes, okay, God gave me a directive, but from there, I imagined, it's like God gave me parts, and I filled in the blanks with like what it was gonna look like when I got here. And when I got here, it was like I wasn't quickly making friends. I still don't like have any like super close friends out here. So it's like one of those things where um that feeling of like not having that sisterhood and like girlhood to like girl, let's just like go get dressed up, and not dating, also just growing, trying to find a church home. It's like I was used to my church. I was in church at least twice a week, but normally I was probably there like 3 to 4 times a week, because I was like involved. I was doing the young adults ministry, so I was just used to being more integrated. I had a community, I had fellowship, and I just had a life, an established life, and I just was expecting that, okay, I'm gonna leave Atlanta and I'm gonna be able to quickly establish a life for myself in Dallas as well. And when that wasn't happening, it was like I'm really going through it. And then also now it's like, okay, God is like, okay, I gave you the instructions. There's things that I want you to do. I want you to share this journey. I want you to share, how I'm taking you through things. And I'm like, God, for one, I don't really want to do that. Like at the time, I'm like, it sounds good, but like now that I'm in it and I'm experiencing the emotions that I'm experiencing, when I'm experiencing hardship, where I'm like, I don't I don't know what this big picture is gonna look like. You're telling me this big grand plan, and I'm like, me, it's like wrestling with like work, unworthiness, and trying to get my identity, like to align my identity with like how Christ is, like what the word says about me. And so it's like being in Dallas has really just like stripped me. Like everything is like, I thought it was gonna be fun, but every time it's like stripping and more taking off more layers and revealing more things to myself. And I'm like, you want me to share this with people? You want me to tell them something that is even hard for me to talk about? Like, I don't want people to know that I feel like I'm in a place where I feel weak. You know what I mean? Like I've been one of those people where expression and vulnerability is to me like weakness. Like, like get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like get over it. It's gonna be okay. Press through. And so to be like in this, yeah, so for me it was like one of those things where it's like I don't want to share. I don't want to share that. I don't want to talk to people and express the way that you're stripping me. I don't want to talk about my sanctification process. I'm uncomfortable with like what you're doing right now, and not like, like I'm being violated or something, but I just, I think when it comes to like sanctification and God really just, yeah, I used to pray and I still pray this prayer. But people always talk about like the quickest prayer is, God, if these people don't belong in my life, or if this person doesn't belong in my life, remove them. But I feel like this prayer is another one of those like expedited, kind of like lethal, get you together type prayers, which I was praying at the time. I was like, I can't even remember what made me start saying it. I must have just like heard it. I don't know. But I know it's Bible verse. But I don't know what made me start saying it. But I was praying. I was like, Lord, please make every crooked place straight. And so little by little that was happening for me in Atlanta. And then like I said, I got integrated into church. I went from like twice a week to joining like leadership, and just doing more activities and events, and just shying away from certain things, and my appetite for change for different things was changing. I joined like a discipleship course, got baptized, and just did the full on like rededicated my life to God. And so, but to fast forward and to be here, it was like I thought I was ready. Like I thought that like when I saw everything that God said, I just thought it was going to be easier. And especially because of how things kind of were when I was in Atlanta. And it's like, I've just had these times in this journey where I'm like, not only am I growing rapidly in my relationship with you, but everything is changing so fast. And I'm an adaptable person, but it's like I kind of need that baseline. And it was just like one of those things like strip. You know, it's bigger. The plan is getting bigger and bigger, and it's like, I'm just having this thing where it's like everything that God told me to do was like once I got here, I would like inch and do some of it, and then it's like whether it be like fear or rejection, also control. I'm gonna be and pride as well was set in where I'm like, okay, God, I trust you. Like I trust your word. I trust what you told me and how you were going to take care of me here. And I would give it to God, and I would say I'm gonna do something, and then I would take it back. I'd be like, I don't know, I just haven't seen. I haven't done anything this big, you know what I mean? Like I normally have a lot of faith, but I'm like, this is even bigger, and I just don't know if I trust you. And I don't, and I, like saying that is hard. It's hard to say that, you know what I mean? And it's hard to say that when you feel like on one end you're in this place where you're like, God, I really love you, and and you're trying to move to a place where you're like I really want to like mean it, like when I say that I wholeheartedly trust you, and trying to like work past that, and to work past like the strongholds and the thought patterns and the imaginations that I've allowed to like get cemented in my mind. And so it's like I'm trying to like work through, people call it imposter syndrome, but it's really just a lack of identity in Christ. So it's like I'm trying to, grasp onto this identity in Christ and quickly, and I'm trying to trust you, but I'm also having like this part of my life like that's happening in the natural that's moving rapidly. It's like life still is going. Like I still have bills, I still have things that I have to do, and every second that I spend not trusting you, there's something over here that's gonna go lacking, because me trusting you here is tied to my provision here. And so, it's just like I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to, it's like I don't want to tell about that. I just don't want to. So, I've had this battle, and it's like now here I am, I'm talking about it, and I'm just like, you know what, God, um, I know that you're not a liar. I know that I've seen God show up for me in amazing, amazing ways. And just like, the Israelites, he pulled them out of Egypt, and how much it used to just frustrate him that they just couldn't like trust him, like that they've seen him do so much, and it just was like you complain and you murmur. And I'm just like, God, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. So even if it takes me, in my tears, in my whatever, I'm going to just push through. I can't let my emotions, I can't exalt my emotions, I can't exalt my fears or my apprehensions or my doubts or the spiritual warfare that I'm going through to move me to this point. So it's like now I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep going. I'm gonna keep making whatever, God, like whatever it is you want me to make. I'm going to go back to the drawing board that you gave me. I'm going to go back to the instructions that you gave me, because I know that you're not a man that you should lie. I know that you don't have to repent. I know that no word that you give me will fall to the ground, and no word will return to you void. And I have to believe that. I have to believe that, because I know that God called me out here. And I know it's like I haven't probably like told you all the fullness of like what it is, and I think that in time, like, not because I'm not don't necessarily want to share it, but it's like I just think, in more videos I'll share, what God is calling me to work on, and a lot of those things are really just very, very much service based, very much people oriented. And I'll be, very transparent. I'm still just working through coming into like a Christ identity. Like, God, I believe that I am who you say that I am, and what you have seems so big for me, and it seems like, there's probably someone like much more qualified and more savvy. But I have to believe that you see that. I know that God, first of all, God knows me, before I was ever born. So it's like, God sees me beyond how I see myself, beyond what I've been through, beyond what I'm facing, beyond my emotions. And I just have to like trust that He's not going to leave me or forsake me. So I'm really like doing a thing where, it's like, working out my faith with like fear and trembling. Like um, I'm just, I'm just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it, and at times, I'm trying not to get emotional, and at times I'm like, I got this, but a lot of times it's like up and down emotionally for me, and I'm just, even that, like, I'm just not used to being emotional, and this journey has just like given me a heart of flesh. It has like stripped me, and everything that I try to like hide behind, everything that I try to use, is like the more I say yes, the more I put these things away, the more it requires me to be vulnerable, the more it sanctifies me. And sanctification does not always feel good, if at all. But one thing I would say about all of this is that this is one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. But I am so glad that God has been with me through this. So much has occurred during this time, And I could not be more thankful that I'm going through this with God. I've gone through some crazy things, but this has by far been the craziest, and I'm so glad that I'm doing it with God. So thank you so much for just like listening. I hope that this helps or blesses somebody. If you have any questions, any suggestions too of like great places to go, I'm still trying to build a life here, um, and still trying to build a professional career here and all of those type of things. So um, yeah, if you just have anything, any questions, anything you want to ask, feel free to reach out, drop a comment, um, shoot me a DM or something. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I did not cry, so yay me.